Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Liz Quidantes. Tonight, a neighborhood in Port St. Lucie turned into a crime scene. 2 people killed, the gunman fighting for his life, and neighbors left shaken. It's all happened in the Tropical East community, and that is where our Jamilka Gibson joins us live with the very latest. Jamilka?
Liz, what began with reports of gunfire turned into a SWAT operation and hostage situation when a man shot his neighbors, then turned the gun on himself.
A double murder and hostage situation in Port St. Lucie Monday. Chaos erupting inside the Tropical East community along Southeast Tropical East Circle around 3 p.m. That's where police found 2 men shot at separate homes and the gunman nowhere to be found.
We had 2 people shot at 2 locations and a suspect at large. So that's quite a chaotic scene to manage.
Officers locked down the area, warning residents to shelter in place as they searched for the shooter.
Early on, we didn't know if he was on foot, left in a vehicle, if he was still nearby.
A neighbor spotted the suspect taking off into a 3rd home where he held a woman hostage. Drones, SWAT team members, and crisis negotiators surrounded the home, working for 2.5 tense hours to get the victim and the suspect out alive.
He was inside the home by himself, armed and barricaded, and at one point he reported to us that he had shot himself.
The hostage was released. The gunman, identified as 62-year-old Paul Mario, was found inside with a gunshot wound to the chest. He was airlifted to the hospital. The 2 shooting victims did not survive. Port St. Lucie police believe the deadly violence stemmed from a dispute.
It appears that there was some sort of ongoing neighbor dispute, and something just brought our suspect to the edge today where he took things into his own hands.
If the suspect survives, he faces charges of murder and unlawful taking of a hostage. Reporting live in Port St. Lucie, Jamilka Gibson, CBS 12 News.
A full-on SWAT operation turned hostage situation. Police say the gunman shot his neighbors before turning the gun on himself, and we just learned from authorities not too long ago that he passed away. He died around 2:30 this morning. Now, Port St. Lucie police arrived to Tropical East community yesterday afternoon. They say 2 men were shot at separate homes. Officers locked down the area, warning people to shelter in place as they search for the shooter. Investigators say he barricaded himself in a 3rd home while holding a woman hostage.
It appears that there was some sort of ongoing neighbor dispute, and something just brought our suspect to the edge today where he took things into his own hands.
SWAT and crisis negotiators worked for 2.5 hours to get him and the woman out alive. Police found the alleged gunman, Paul Mario, inside with a gunshot wound to the chest. Again, we just learned he was brought to the hospital by Port St. Lucie authorities, but they tell us around 2:30 this morning that gunman has died. And of course, this is a story that will continue to follow. Police have not yet released the names of those victims, but we'll keep you posted as we learn more. For CBS 12 News this morning, I'm Paige Meyer.
A hostage situation in Port St. Lucie ends with 3 people dead, including the gunman who took his own life. All of this unfolding last night near Southeast Tropical Circle near Mariposa Elementary School. That's where police say the man shot and killed his 2 neighbors and took another one hostage. CBS 12 News reporter Jack Wu is live at the scene 24 hours later where new details are coming to light. Jack?
I'm learning that this situation all started because of a disagreement between the suspect and another neighbor. We're also learning some more information on the sole victim that lived, who was trapped in the house just behind me with the gunman. A standoff between a gunman and a SWAT team turned deadly Monday night. Police received a call about 2 men who had been shot near Southeast Tropical East Circle in Port St. Lucie. Authorities say they encountered a scene they haven't handled in years, a hostage situation.
The last hostage situation I think I recall was several years ago at the Tropical Smoothie on Port St. Lucie Boulevard, if I remember correctly, but it's uncommon.
Police identified Paul Mario as the gunman. He allegedly held a woman hostage in her own home. Crisis negotiators were able to get her released, but Mario remained barricaded for another hour and a half. At the same time, St. Lucie County deputies were forced to evacuate 14 students from Mariposa Elementary around the corner. One neighbor named Brian Goldsby lives down the street.
You hear all the bad news and you see the stuff that happens there, but you never expect it to be in your neighborhood. But when it happened, it's like, whoa, so I was like, wow, this has always been super quiet.
Mario eventually told police he shot himself in the chest. He eventually died from those injuries later into the night. Investigators learned the motive was a disagreement between Mario and another neighbor. The woman who was held hostage has not been identified as of Tuesday, but she is okay. And that neighbor I spoke with earlier tells me that he was with the hostage just moments before our interview. He tells me that he helped her pack her bags and get over to her family's place not too far from here. He also told me that she says she's considering moving out of the neighborhood. Reporting live in Port St. Lucie, I'm Jack Wu, CBS 12 News.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. I'm Liz Quirantes. We're learning more about the victims and the man police say unleashed deadly violence inside a quiet Port St. Lucie neighborhood. 2 people were shot and killed. 1 woman was held hostage, and the gunman turned the gun on himself last night near Southeast Tropical Circle, right by Mariposa Elementary School. The gunman was pronounced dead at the hospital. CBS 12 News reporter Jamilka Gibson spoke with neighbors who knew the victims. She joins us with more. Jamilka?
This home right behind me is where a woman was held hostage for nearly 1 hour by a man police say shot 2 of his neighbors. SWAT was forced to go in, and you can see the home is boarded up. Tarp is covering what appears to be a window, and down below a snapped tree. Neighbors I spoke with calling the suspect a ticking time bomb.
A deadly outburst of rage, leaving residents inside the Tropical East community shaken up.
I was worried that this was going to happen, and I was glad I was not home for it.
Police say 62-year-old Paul Mario shot and killed 2 of his neighbors, held another hostage, then turned the gun on himself. Neighbors describe Mario as a disaster waiting to happen, a man battling mental health issues who had constant disputes with his homeowners association and anyone who didn't share his political views, including his neighbor Mark, who was shot inside his garage.
They did not like each other. They were in like this feud for, I think it's probably going on a year and a half, and the police were called numerous times over it.
The suspect then walked a couple doors down, turning the gun on Dave, his next-door neighbor.
He was literally his direct neighbor, and they were friends. That's why everybody is wondering why he killed Dave. We have no idea.
Mario stormed into a 3rd home, holding a woman named Susie hostage, while SWAT members and crisis negotiators surrounded the home.
He was inside the home by himself, armed and barricaded, and at one point he reported to us that he had shot himself.
The SWAT team rushed into the home after the hostage was released. At the now vacant home Tuesday, a snapped tree, tarp, and plywood, a grim reminder of the chaos that ensued hours before.
Port St. Lucie police are still piecing together exactly what set off the rampage, but neighbors say they'd seen the warning signs for months. Reporting in Port St. Lucie, Jamilka Gibson, CBS 12 News.